Like my panelists up here, I'm very happy to be here. I think just looking at our panel and more importantly at the themes that are captured in the Smart Grid Week and the forum over the next 3 days, I can't help but remark on the immense diversity that smart grid developments in India now encompass. And maybe this should not be a surprise to any of us because everyone here represents a different aspect of grid modernization, development of improved services for customers in smart grid. I come as a representative of the US government and the work that we do on the public-private partnerships that were just mentioned to help advance the very important work of the electricity sector and modernizing. I am very grateful to be part of such a panel of experts, and it's very clear that they represent very important developments, and they do so with passion. I'm very proud that a number of the panelists are partners of our agency, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, to advance important practices. We talk a lot about best practices, but a lot of this is being undertaken in the India distribution subsector through technologies that we hear a lot of, through pilot programs that are very important to demonstrate the effectiveness of these smart grid applications. And these partners clearly speak with quite a bit of knowledge, and I would have to say passion about some of these developments. I think if we step back a second, we might recognize that smart grid is the ultimate nerd territory for development. We're talking about the Internet of Things. We're talking about things like early smart grid applications, outage management systems. We talk about regulatory concepts of reflecting the investments in smart grid systems as, are they CapEx, are they OpEx, and where does a regulator ever allow a distribution utility to build in the cost of data analysis and consulting services that help bring in smart grid applications in a meaningful way. I have to give Reggie and all his colleagues in the forum credit for establishing this forum as a means to bring together and converge these concepts, which are very nerdy at their definitional level, but it actually turns out that smart grid is at the core, it's at the center of crucial developments in the energy sector. And as India has shown through its various national missions, and particularly perhaps the most logical evolution of smart grid, which is smart city, India has demonstrated that smart grid is a core infrastructure for smart city development. And I think as a generalist myself and as an agency whose job it is to promote the kinds of developments that would bring meaningful modernization to infrastructure that delivers actual benefits to the citizens of India who are utility customers, we have to look at that convergence of where technology applications that work at the very detailed level of how distribution utilities bring energy to their customers, we have to look at that in a very comprehensive way. And this forum over the next 3 days has a very diverse and very rich agenda that starts with some of the things that were thought of as simply modernization of the grid before smart grid was a true concept, but takes it all the way through to smart cities, which is an obvious convergence. and a recognition that this is a very important connection in development for India and many places. India is the place where many of these developments will play out in the most meaningful way for the energy sector and for development. Because there is so much unserved electricity demand in India today, it isn't just in rural settings, it's in urban settings, and some of the leading distribution utilities here, like Tata, like Reliance, are demonstrating that their incorporation of smart grid applications can help them extend electricity services to underserved populations within their large service territories. And they're doing so very much at the behest of government pushing this need to demonstrate that urban development and the difficult challenges that we all face in accommodating greater congestion and greater use of energy and in the mitigation of the environmental effects, that this can work. And it turns out that distribution utilities are on the front edge of that challenge. And I think one of the observations that I would have from our work, and we hope to get into this more in some of the workshops that take place over the next couple days, is there's a very important job to do to bring the regulatory system along with the development opportunities that we see in the utility system, in the distribution system. This is happening already in India, where distribution companies are working hard with their regulators to demonstrate the value of these applications. And while many of the initial smart grid applications very logically take place with large-scale commercial and industrial customers, as one of the pilots that we sponsored in Mumbai has shown, the meaning for the regulators has to be that the entire set of their customers can benefit, and that the costs for introducing these innovations can bring benefits to the full slate of customers. And residential customers are clearly the message here. I think what is needed is a greater philosophy on how regulatory decisions can be made, taking into account benefits that not only are reflected in the specific kilowatt-hour tariff that residential customers may be facing, but the benefits that they may see in terms of more reliable power and the electric services, what they're able to bring. And some of those things may not be electricity in and of itself. Some of the future that smart grid is beginning to tackle in India is this behavioral aspect in customer response. We're understanding how large industrial and commercial customers can modify their behavior once armed with the information about a smart grid application that they can help manage with the utility. But part of the frontier is bringing this to the residential customer, and we are currently ourselves examining this kind of prospect with some of the behavioral energy efficiency applications, as they are known, working with some of the Indian utilities. So I want to leave with that observation, because I do think there is a lot to be discussed here, and this forum is the exactly correct place to do so. And as a representative of the U.S. government, where certainly we've often spoken of the connections between India and the U.S. as the world's largest and oldest democracies, I think noisy democracy is probably a accurate depiction of our two systems. And in those noisy democracies, we like in the U.S. nothing better than a battle between business and government. And this regulatory environment where the businesses of utilities are discussing with the regulator the proper approach to incorporating innovation so that they don't become a subsidy by residential customers for the benefits that are delivered largely to large customers. This is something that plays out very naturally in this sometimes referred to battleground. And it's a territory which, in the Smart Grid Forum, I think we have a very good opportunity to address in a meaningful way, because this is a natural, nerdy part of our conversation. So I hope to burnish some of our own nerd credentials over the next 2 days while learning from the many experts represented here in this hall today. With that, I thank you.